Hollow Knight is a game, and in that game there are these funny little charms that make you take double damage if you use too many. So today, I will be attempting to beat the entire game while being overcharmed the entire time.
Yeah, you already did that challenge.
Yes, but that video was bad and I'm trying a new style of video, so I'm doing it again and I'm actually going to finish it this time. But not only that, I will be attempting to beat this challenge in under 4 hours, which is substantially faster than what is required to get the fastest speedrunning achievement in the game. Will I succeed, or will I fail miserably? Let us find out, and let us begin. The start of the run is pretty much the same as any other, so as I go through the boring part, let me explain the rules of this challenge. The first one is obvious, I have to be overcharmed the entire time as soon as I'm able to. Second, the first rule does not apply while I am at a bench, meaning I can freely swap out and rearrange charms as I please. Third, and probably the most important rule, if picking up a charm notch would cause me to no longer be overcharmed, I cannot pick it up. So now that I have both Fury of the Fallen and Soul Catcher, I can become overcharmed. This will make me take double damage for the rest of the run. Beginning of the game is fairly easy and I make my way to Hornet and pick up Dash without much trouble. Unfortunately, I do save Zote for a bit of money and I also pick up a relic next to the Stag Station. Once I get Dash, I can enter the Mushroom Caves from Terraria, but before that I make a quick pit stop to beat up a fat bug and buy Shaman Stone from another fat bug. This will make our spooky spells do much more damage and will carry us the whole run. I also save Sly so he can scam me later. Once I'm done with that, I make my way into Fungal Wastes, aka Florida. This is the first area where I actually have to be careful because of the copious amounts of carnivorous juice on the floor. But because I'm just good at the game like that, I grab a Charm Notch and Mantis Claw with relative ease. This is the point in the game where normal people would go into City of Tears, but not me. You see, I'm better, I'm faster, literally. I'm going to do a speedrunning skip. This is called Shade Skip, and if you don't know what it is, well, it's that. This will give us access to the Dream Nail much earlier than usual, and with it we can poke around in people's minds, kill them in their sleep, open a magic door, and absorb the color orange. But before going down to City of Tears, I beat up Zero and banish him to the Shadow Realm to get some money. Once in the city, I go over to my good friend Hornbeetle and have him sharpen my nail to a slightly less crappy nail. I then go to Lim, and forfeit all mortal possessions for enough money to possibly buy half of a used 2015 Mitsubishi Mirage. I then let Scam slime me out of all of my money so I can buy a bug in a jar. I also buy a couple of mask shards and head over to Breda to finish out my first mask. I then do a bit of grinding for another mask. You see, the reason I'm doing all of this is because usually the next section of the game is Soul Sanctum. I hate the Soul Sanctum, and being overcharmed will just make it worse than it usually is. I was genuinely dreading going into that accursed place, and I decided to gather as much as I could before I ventured in there. I needed a bit more money after buying the lantern, so I headed back into South Florida to beat up Mantis Lords. Even after getting 2 full masks, I could still only take 4 hits before I died, which is even less than when you first start the game normally. But even with that massive disadvantage, I managed to beat up the Mantis Lords and gain the respect of their tribe. I then robbed them of everything they owned. I then headed into Crystal Peaks, an area infamous for containing one of the most annoying enemies in the entire game, and a platforming segment that is fairly difficult for how early in the game you can reach it. But of course, I navigated it with ease, picking up Super Dash. The same area also contains D-Dark, an upgrade to a spell I don't have yet, and I was looking kinda curious what would happen if I got the upgrade first. Yeah, you need the base spell to get in. Obviously. Anyway, in Crystal Peaks I picked up the Shopkeeper's Key that Sly so irresponsibly left up there, and I was then able to buy the Elegant Key. I then headed back into City of Tears and definitely did not die trying to get a simple key, then had to get a taste of the Soul Sanctum in order to upgrade my Vengeful Spirit into a Shade Soul. Fortunately, I didn't have to navigate too much of it, and I opened the Elegant Door with my Elegant Key to be met with a not very elegant mini-boss. This is Soul Warrior, one of my worst enemies and the servant of the Soul Master. He was powerful, much more so than I expected, and he managed to fill me time and time again, but I wasn't about to give up. I finally locked in, and I managed to kill him with a Vengeful Spirit. Now equipped with a much more powerful spell, I headed down into Ancient Basin to get wings. I usually just run right past these Molochs, but this one kept sniping me. How does this happen so many times? Anyway, I made it past the Molochs and started throwing hands with the free trial version of the Hollow Knight. The fight was seemingly going well, but before I knew it, I was on 1 hit. But I managed to clutch up and kill him first try. After that, I grabbed a funny rock and stag to City to sharpen my nail one last time. It was then that I decided it was finally time to face my fears and conquer Soul Sanctum. Almost immediately upon entering, I was swarmed, but I managed to get to the next section of the Sanctum without even a single scratch on me. Soul Warrior came back for a rematch, but he was dead much faster than last time now that I had Shade Soul. As I completed the next section and grabbed another charm, I was beginning to think that maybe I would be able to finish Soul Sanctum without any trouble. Maybe I had overprepared. Yeah, I had definitely overprepared because Soul Master was dead before he even got me below half health. As a reward, I got Downward Dissension. With that, my charm build was done, and I headed back to Crystal Peaks to upgrade Downward Dissension. Parkour in this part always goes one of two ways for me. Either it's super easy, barely an inconvenience, or it inflicts a near lethal amount of psychic damage. This time, it was the latter. I died once to some incredibly unfortunate circumstances and had to quit out after getting my shade to avoid dying again. But then I remembered I had Shade Soul and I managed to finish the area and get D-Dark. I then died in a way that was so terrible and so embarrassing that watching it back it genuinely looked scripted. How did I do this? I then ventured back into Crystallized Mound like an absolute gigachad and did not just grind up enough money to have GG bring my shade back. Trust me, that did not happen. I then got a final mask in Isma's tier, and with that I had everything I needed to beat the game. I had been dreading Watcher Nights this entire run, even more so than Soul Sanctum. They were a massive time sink for me on every run, and I was afraid they would take too long that I wouldn't be able to finish the rest of the game in time. My first attempt went terribly, and I died in less than a minute. But I was determined not to let Watcher Nights ruin this run, and I locked in. I ended the fight with a single hit left before I died. I killed Lorient and went back to Crossroads to go in the last part of my route to kill the other two Dreamers. Umu went down easy and Monumin soon followed. I had a few close calls on my way down to Beast's Den, but I managed to reach Hera, the final Dreamer I had to kill before the final boss. With just over 20 minutes left on the clock, I was feeling confident that I would beat this challenge. I mean, there's no way the Hollow Knight takes me 20 minutes to beat, right? Right? I don't know what happened. My skill seemed to have abandoned me. Loss after loss, attempt after attempt, I began to be afraid. I began to doubt if I would be able to beat this challenge. How could this happen? I thought the Hollow Knight would be easy. He's always easy. But I usually have twice as much health. 11 minutes straight of losing to the Hollow Knight with no real progress being made. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to beat this challenge. My next run started terribly, and I was at one hit before I even reached phase 2. My hands were shaking, my heart was pounding, but I was determined to win. I wouldn't die again. I would win right here and now. So I did. I killed the Hollow Knight, sealing the infection within myself and taking his place. With a final time of 3 hours, 46 minutes and 41 seconds, and a whopping 13 minutes and 19 seconds to spare, I beat this challenge. And dare I say, I think I did pretty well. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and if this video gets 2 likes, I will continue this challenge to the true ending and 112% completion. Subscribe for more, and have a great day. Was I recording? Oh, I was recording, cool.